Hey, what's up guys, back again with another video in the Python series. This time I'm going to show you the different data types. Alright guys, so now that we have a good understanding of some simple stuff, we can move on to the data types, which are basically important to variables, because when you have a variable, you have the capability of holding different types of data. Like for example, you can have a variable that stores numbers, you could have a variable that stores letters and stuff. That would be a string, and then you have a variable that stores other different things, like booleans maybe. And a boolean is a true or false value. But anyway, so I'm going to show you the different data types. There's actually some of them that I'm not going to show you because they're a little more advanced for what we're learning right now. So we're just going to keep it pretty simple, but I'm going to show you what you need to know, okay? So the first thing you want to do, of course, is open up PowerShell or a console that can run Python. And then we'll type Python to open up Python. And then now we can start making stuff, right? Yeah, so last episode we went over variables, so now we can show you the different types of variables, right? So of course, let's make a simple variable. We'll call it Bob. So Bob is going to be equal to, let's actually use a number, right? Because we already know numbers, so we'll do 125. Okay, so now Bob is equal to 125. So if we want to see the value of Bob, of course, we could do Bob just like that, and then it returns the value. So that's a simple data type. That's a number data type, or actually in this case it would be called an integer data type, because of course it's not a floating value, meaning it does not have a decimal, so this would be an integer. So let's say we want to make a variable with a floating value type, right? So a floating number basically, right? So we could do that. We'll do Bob2 is equal to 125.0 or point whatever you want to put, doesn't really matter. So now Bob2 is equal to that, 125.13, and then we can print out the value of Bob2. So now we have two different variables. We have Bob and then we have Bob2. Now the difference is between Bob and Bob2 is that Bob is going to be equal to 125, which is an integer numeric value, which is, an integer data type, same thing. So you have different data types, right? So this would be an integer, then this one would be a float, or, basically, yeah, a floating value type. But they both fall under the category data type of number, right? These are both number data types, okay? Not actually just integer data type, it's actually a number data type, but there's different types of numbers, right? Floating and integer, right? So yeah, that's the number data type. So now also we have booleans, okay? And booleans are very simple. They're simply true or false. So it's a way for you to store a true or false value, okay? So we could do something like this. We could make a variable called is eating cool, and then is equal to, and then we could put a true or false value. So we could either do true, like this, or false. And notice that I capitalized both true and false. And you want to do that whenever using a boolean value. It cannot be lowercase, okay? So yeah, make sure the first letter, of course, is either capital T or lowercase f, right? So let's say is eating cool. For some reason we want to set it to true, so we could do that. Now we can print out the value is eating cool, and we can see that is equal to true, okay? So that's a boolean, and if we want to see if it's a boolean, we could simply do type, and then we can put the name of the variable in here. So type is eating cool, and now it tells us that it's a class of bool, meaning, also boolean, right? So now we could also we could reset it to be false, so is eating cool. And instead of true, we're going to set it to false. So now it's going to be false. And as you can see here, we got an error because I did not set the first letter to be capital F, right? So don't forget to do that. So yeah, we know number now, which is going to have two subcategories of integer and floating value. And then now we know the boolean value, okay? So that's the boolean data type and the number data type, okay? So now we have another big one called string. And strings are very important for storing not numeric, but character values. So think of it this way, okay? We could store letters basically, alright? Or characters in this case. Okay, so let's make a value here, our variable, we'll call it flamingo, and we're going to set flamingo equal to the name of a flamingo that we want to just name them, okay? So whenever you're using string, you have to surround the string, or the characters that you want to put inside of the string, with double quotes, okay? Like this. And so let's say we want to name this flamingo Larry, okay? So now we store the value of Larry, or the word Larry, inside of the variable of flamingo, okay? So we'll press enter, and now that value is stored. So if you want to see the value again, we could do flamingo, and now we can see that I stored Larry, right? So let's go ahead and see what the type of it is, because just to check and see if it's a string, I want to prove to you that it is a string. So we can do type flamingo, and it tells us that it's a str, which stands for string, okay? So that's how you store strings, but it's not also just words. You can store any character, anything that's on your keyboard, okay? So flamingo, we're going to set it to something else, is equal to, and instead of Larry, we'll set it to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you might think that this is actually a number, but it's not. Whenever you surround anything by double quotes, it's not going to be a number, it's going to be a string, okay? So now flamingo, if we do type flamingo, we can see that it's not returning an integer or a number or whatever, it's just returning a string, as you can see here. So like I said, anything that's surrounded by double quotes is going to be a string. And yeah, so Besides that, we can pretty much store anything that's inside of the Unicode table. But yeah, basically the Unicode table is a giant table that has every single character you could ever think of inside that table, okay? And with each character in that table, it corresponds with a number or like a code, basically, okay? And the point of having this Unicode table is that, well, each country, of course, is going to have different letters on their keyboards, right? Because there's different languages and stuff like that. So with the Unicode table, we have different codes that we can use to universally represent these characters in every country, basically, okay? And yeah, it's very simple, but if you're more interested, you can look it up. So yeah, that's pretty simple. We might explore this further in the future. We probably will. So yeah. Anyway, those are strings, and strings, of course, like I said 20 times now, will store characters, okay? And so, and numbers, anything. Well, a number is technically a character because you can see it on your keyboard, and it's just yeah, it's a character. I mean, it's pretty simple. But anyway, so yeah, we know strings, booleans, and integers and floats. I mean, of course, that falls under number, but anyway, so we know those three data types, and those are the three simple data types that you need to know to, really know how to use Python. So once you know that, you're pretty much done with this video, but also, before I end the video, I want to tell you about dynamic typing, okay? And dynamic typing is basically what some languages have, other languages don't, like Java and C++, they do not have dynamic typing. And what it is basically whenever you have a variable, right, as you can see here, we're creating a variable called flamingo, right? And we're able to set flamingo to either a number, a boolean, or a string, right? We can set it to any of those without having to specify which one we're going to use, right? But in other languages, you actually have to specify which variable type, or which data type, you're going to use with the variable. So in Java, for example, if you want to make an integer, you have to specify int, and then the variable name, flamingo, is equal to 25, like that, or 23. So you actually have to set variables to be a certain data type, okay, and they cannot change pretty much for, mostly, right? So in this case, in Python, the types are dynamic, meaning that variables can be any type, they can change at any time, just as long as you set them correctly, right? Because of course, strings have double quotes around them and stuff like that. Python knows, of course, that you're using a string and stuff like that, okay? But yeah, besides that, that's pretty much it. Python's dynamic. Other languages, for the most part, the other popular ones are static, meaning they cannot change, while these can, okay? Not very useful right now, but it's good to know stuff like that. So anyway, so we know the different data types, well, the simple ones at least. We know number, or integer, float, we know string, and we know boolean. Alright, so that's it. That was really simple. I know these episodes are really short so far, but we're going to get more advanced in the future, don't worry. And yeah, so if you like this video, leave a like. If you want to see more, subscribe, and peace.